The hydraulic lift screamed as it carried another pallet of missiles toward the F-35's weapon bay, the sound cutting through the pre-dawn darkness of Ramstein Air Base like a blade through silence. Technical Sergeant Maya Rodriguez steadied the load with practiced hands, her calloused fingers finding their grip despite the winter gloves that never quite fit right. Around her, the ground crew moved in their familiar dance fuelers, dragging hoses across wet tarmac, mechanics running final checks, pilots sipping coffee from thermos cups that steamed in the frigid German air. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying this story, please consider subscribing to our channel. But Maya wasn't watching the pilots. She never watched the pilots. Her eyes stayed fixed on the ordnance, on the weight distribution, on the precise calculations that meant the difference between a successful mission and a crater somewhere over the Baltic. She'd been loading weapons for 3 years now, ever since her reassignment to logistics support, and she'd never dropped a payload, never miscalculated a balance point, never given a pilot reason to doubt the equipment beneath their wings. Rodriguez. Staff Sergeant Chen's voice cut through the engine noise. We've got a priority load coming in hot. Squadron commander wants these birds armed and ready in 20 minutes. Maya nodded, already calculating the time needed for each step. 20 minutes was tight, but not impossible. She'd done it in 18 once, during a readiness exercise that had everyone's careers on the line. The trick was efficiency without rushing, precision without hesitation. She guided the lift toward the next aircraft, an F-16 that looked like it had seen better decades. The pilot was already in the cockpit, running through pre-flight checks, with the methodical intensity of someone who knew their life depended on getting every switch in the right position. Maya could see his hands moving across the instrument panel, the way his shoulders tensed slightly when he reached for the weapons, systems controls, something twisted in her chest, a familiar ache that she'd learned to ignore over the years. She'd once known every switch in that cockpit, could have run the same checks blindfolded, could have taken that bird up and danced it through the sky like it was part of her own body. But that was before the incident, before the medical review board, before the reassignment that felt more like exile. You okay, Rodriguez? Chen appeared at her elbow, studying her face with the kind of attention that meant trouble. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just tired, Maya said, forcing her attention back to the missile she was guiding into place. Long shift. Chen wasn't buying it. He'd been watching her for weeks now, ever since the new squadron commander had arrived asking questions about personnel files and cross-training opportunities. Maya had hoped her record was buried deep enough that no one would bother digging, but hope and military bureaucracy rarely intersected. Rodriguez, we need to talk after this mission cycles out, Chen said. Colonel Harrison wants to see your file. The wrench in Maya's hand slipped, clanging against the missile housing with a sound that made everyone within earshot freeze. In the sudden silence, she could hear her own heartbeat, the distant rumble of jets taxiing toward the runway, the soft whisper of Chen's radio crackling with traffic control chatter. My file? Maya kept her voice level, professional. Is there a problem with my work? Not your work, Chen said. Your background. Maya's hands went through the motions of securing the ordnance, while her mind raced through possibilities. Her service record was clean 3 years of exemplary performance in ordnance loading. No disciplinary actions, commendations for efficiency and safety. But beneath that surface layer lay the classified sections, the medical evaluations, the incident. Reports that she'd hoped would stay buried forever. 10 minutes to wheels up. The announcement echoed across the flight line, cutting through her spiraling thoughts. Maya forced herself to focus. Whatever conversation was waiting for her with Colonel Harrison could wait. Right now there were pilots depending on her to do her job correctly. Lives depending on the precision she'd spent 3 years perfecting, even if it wasn't the job she'd trained for, even if every missile she loaded felt like a reminder of the cockpit she'd never occupy again. She finished the weapons check and stepped back, watching the F-16 taxi toward the runway. The pilot gave her a thumbs up through the canopy standard procedure, acknowledgement that the ordnance was properly loaded and armed. Maya returned the gesture, but her eyes were already tracking to the horizon where the first hint of dawn was beginning to paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. That had been her favorite time to fly, back when flying was still an option. Dawn missions when the air was clean and cold, when the world below looked like a map spread out in perfect detail, when the only sound was the steady rhythm of her own breathing and the quiet hum of perfectly tuned engines. Rodriguez. Chen's voice was softer now, almost gentle. Whatever's in that file, whatever happened before, it doesn't change the fact that you're one of the best ordnance techs I've ever worked with. Maya turned to look at him, really look at him for the first time in months. Chen had been in the Air Force for 15 years, had seen 3 deployments and countless personnel rotations. He'd probably figured out that her technical skills were too precise, too intuitive for someone who'd only trained in ground support. "Thanks, Sergeant," Maya said. "I appreciate that. But there's something else, isn't there?" Chen stepped closer, lowering his voice so the other crew members couldn't hear. "The way you watch the birds take off. The way you know exactly how much fuel they're carrying just by looking at their takeoff angle. That's not ordnance tech. Knowledge, Rodriguez." Maya felt the weight of 3 years of careful pretense settling on her shoulders like lead. She'd been so careful, so methodical about hiding her background, but apparently not careful enough that the F-16 she'd just armed was turning onto the active runway now, its engines spooling up to full power. Maya could feel the sound in her bones, the familiar vibration that used to mean freedom, adventure, the chance to touch the edge of space and dance with physics itself. "I used to fly," Maya said quietly, "a long time ago." Chen nodded as if this wasn't really news to him. "Figured as much. We'll talk about it later." Before Maya could answer, the radio on Chen's belt erupted with static and urgent voices. All ground personnel, we have a situation developing. Inbound emergency aircraft, repeat, inbound emergency aircraft requiring immediate assistance." Maya's head snapped up, her body automatically shifting into the alert posture she'd learned in flight training.